This is the latest prediction numbers. Vivek Ramaswamy tied in second place with Ron DeSantis. And, I think he might overtake Ron DeSantis for second place very, very soon. When Donald Trump gets indicted, Vivek comes out with a very, very strong, and it seemed unscripted message about how this is wrong. Whether or not you trust Vivek, he's rolling 20s. He is hitting all of his marks. He's responding authentically and properly. He's answering the questions. When people criticize him, he tackles them head on. Now he is rising in the prediction market. So I suppose we shall see at what point he hits second place. But I'm already seeing a ton of Trump supporters saying that if for some reason Trump was completely incapable of running, Vivek would be their guy.
It's definitely interesting. He sent out a couple fundraising emails this week saying, I am on track to overtake Ron DeSantis. And when he was here the other week, he was saying, like, we were hoping to reach about a 10% in the polling by the end of the year. We are much farther ahead of that. His campaign really has had a lot of inertia behind it.
What do you guys think? What do you think?
I think Vivek will take him over. I think Ron is plummeting, and I'm kind of heartened by it because I heard you guys on the show the other day saying Vivek's kind of like a right-wing Obama. And it's funny, my buddy Reed Coverdale actually said the same thing about Ron at one point, where he was kind of following a similar kind of thing. But it's almost like the people kind of saw it, because I'm of the opinion that, I mean, maybe Ron would be great when he got in, but I'm sensing neocon vibes. Yeah. So it really feels like... Vivek? No, Ron. So I'm saying he kind of was the right-wing Obama, but now it's like, it's kind of that idea where it's like traditionally politically expedient or modern politically expedient. Now it's like Vivek could be that right-wing Obama, to where it's like, I don't know, maybe he will swap when he gets in. I don't know. Maybe he'll stay true to he is genuine. I'm unsure, but he seems pretty genuine from every time I've seen him talk. But point being is, it's just, I'm heartened by the idea that people kind of lost faith in the Ron thing. Like, to be clear, I love him as a Florida governor. I think he's great. But now when you get the reins of federal power, that's a different story. Now you're controlling foreign policy.
Vivek he's going on every show and just saying, ask me.
Yep.
And it's just raw, unfiltered, and authentic. It's masterfully done. Whether you like him or trust him or not, if he is being duplicitous and political and trying to earn votes,
he's good at it.
He's the best I've ever seen.
But that's the scariest part, right? It's the ones who are really good at it that you have to worry. That's the ones you have to worry about. Is the ones who are really, really good at hiding it until the last moment, right? And he has done a very good job about that, because I think anyone who has even base level political knowledge sees him and sees some type of comparison to Barack Obama. But I would also maybe posit that people who are now paying attention to politics, especially people who lean right, are far more informed on these issues. So if he's going to fool them, it will be a lot harder to fool them than to fool a political novice in 2008.
He can't just put up a hope poster.
He can't just put up a hope and change poster and call it a day.
Viking Vet told us he super chatted saying, pull up the predicted graph, and you can actually see Vivek has already surpassed DeSantis on one occasion. I think if let's go back 30 days, we can see that, there is a period where Vivek and DeSantis had tied. And then on the 28th, Vivek actually surpassed DeSantis by 2 cents and held that lead for, I believe, 2 days. So they tied, and now it's going back up. So he's already gotten it. I think the story of Vivek is that he was very much apolitical. He was kind of just like somewhat political. And then the story he told us was that when the BLM riots happened, people came to him and said, change your company's profile picture to the black square. And he was like, oh, sure, whatever. And he does. And they come to him and they're like, now write a letter about why what happened was bad. And he was like, yeah, sure, I guess. And then he writes like, hey, the rioting is really bad. It's unfortunate what happened. I hope this country can come together and heal. And they were like, no, you're supposed to be why we're right and support us. And he was like, okay, now you're pissing me off. Like I wrote something. Then he started getting board members from his company resigning. It seems like Vivek was this successful, what is he worth, $500 million, running a pharmaceutical company, minding his own business, probably very pleased with himself at 37. And then woke activists started attacking him. And look, it's one thing if you're like an indie game developer or a small YouTuber or a random guy who works at a steel mill and they're coming to cancel you. It's another thing if you're the guy who founded a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical and you're worth $500 million and they come at you and try to cancel you. And then I'm just imagining him sitting there like clenching his fist being like, I will destroy you. And now this is the story he told that like, after seeing that, he realized how dangerous this stuff was. He wrote the book, I think, Woke Capital. He started talking about ESG being a problem. He created a mutual fund? He created a fund. I'm not a finance guy, specifically to reject what's going on with ESG and all that. And then he's like, I'm gonna run for president. So this dude's just he's doing an amazing job. He's nailing it. I'm a big fan.
He seems to be fitting in more like with the well-informed voters who would naturally vote Trump. You would have thought they would have gone towards Ron because he was such a culture war issue type guy. But those issues, whether we're talking about financing from companies like BlackRock or Vanguard, pushing back against that type of ESG-based capitalism is going to be strong for him because the people who would vote for Trump if he was out of the election are going to care about that stuff. And Ron can't seem to land much of it. We did a clip the other day where he's like, at like some meet and greet with people and he just laughs really awkwardly and walks away. And it's just like, he can't win. Like like the clip is bad. It's not even his fault in this case. Right.
But
somebody points it and it just seems awkward and the dude can't catch a break.
Honestly, I found it endearing personally. Cause I'm like, oh, that's me.
Yeah. But like right now he's in like, he's facing people who are very much antagonistic. Right. So that's not going to be shown in a way that's endearing to people. Like certain people might see it that way. Like you said, you identified with it because I would be that way, at the party too. But in general, that's not something you want in the leader of your military, right?
I think what's cool about Vivek's messaging is that it's more than just like, Ron DeSantis did a lot of really interesting things culture war wise, especially when it comes to gender ideology. One of the things I like about Vivek's campaign is that it's much more about the renewal of like civic engagement and about patriotism and about values that bring us together. And I think as much as like the more divisive aspects of the culture war are definitely worth fighting, it is nice to also say like, here is actually what we want. Instead of just saying, well, we don't want these things. What do we want? And I think that's cool. There are definitely stuff about like Vivek's campaign that I don't personally agree with. I think there should be more restriction on legal immigration. He doesn't. But I am grateful that he's on the scene because he's provoking a lot of really interesting conversation.
I would describe Donald Trump's campaign in a single word: revenge. I don't see a lot more. I mean, he's fundraising. They're coming after me. They want to destroy me and strike fear, and I'm fighting for you. And I see all of this, and I'm like, Trump wants to go in there and get revenge. I like it. Someone's got to go in and have a beef to just start firing the bureaucrats. And that's a great first step towards fixing the problems in government. Not all of them. Government itself is a problem in many ways. And then you have Vivek Ramaswamy. And I look at him, and if I were to describe his campaign, it's like you said, civic engagement. He's talked about civics tests for voting. He's talking about American values and things like this, and he's nailing it. My question for you guys, I guess, is how would you describe Ron DeSantis' campaign? Like his policies, what he's pushing, what he stands for, what represents, like what does he represent?
He's just not picking something. He's trying to be this essentially a Vivek in a sense. Or like some sort of Vivek, Trump mashup, but he's not really. Well, I just mean the vibe. But he's not really committing. He's also still kind of like, sort of like being like, to what like elite talking points, kind of like alluding a little bit. But I might still be for that. Like it's like there's so many things. Like I know when he was waffling, I think on the Ukraine stuff a while, but he was talking about it, and he was just kind of like, can you really just not say no? Like just we're done. Like and none of this like we need to have a presence here, and then like just. None of this like politician talk. People are over it. They want you to be solid about what you want and like take a strong stance. And I think he has this pull between his like Ron with his base and his donors. I think that is kind of what the issue is. So he's like, where do I go? And it's like you got to pick one or the other. I mean, preferably the base.
How is it hard though? I mean, what single voter actually is voting for more money being sent to Ukraine?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is...
Maybe like Ukrainian Americans.
The donors.
Somebody who has a connection to Ukraine.
Yeah.
The thing is, I felt like Ron DeSantis was the strongest when he was just Ron DeSantis in Florida, thinking about Florida, doing what he could for Florida, and he didn't have what I assume he now has, which is this kind of what you're talking about, like a donor class that's come in and say, okay, this is what we think will translate best to the national level. And in that way, he's lost his sense of self, which, like you're saying, when you have strong contenders who have these personalities, their campaigns have a rhythm, they have sort of found their niche in terms of the interview circuit. It's very different than sort of where Ron DeSantis is right now. And again, that's not to say that he doesn't ever have any interesting talking points or anything like that, but you start to feel like he is not catching the rhythm that he needs to sustain his second place standing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I feel feel let down.
Yeah, the that video you guys have been talking about a lot recently, I think was a perfect example where like they're trying to which
one
the one with the Ukraine or the Stalin whatever the heck it's called,
the Nazi symbol.
Yeah, which personally I thought was awesome, but like
the
obviously I don't think the Nazi symbol, but the whole vibe of the video. It was like,
how do you accidentally put a spinning black sun behind your candidate? With soldiers marching towards it. That's not an accident.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do it, you need to own it. You probably shouldn't do it, but if you're gonna do it,
How do you own it?
Just be like, hey, it was a cool symbol. It's stupid trying to own it, but trying to do this in between thing where like our people put it out and we're trying to have this plausible deniability is just silly. Either do it or don't. He could have
said, I don't know. I saw it from the Ukraine fighters.
Yeah,
so
or
that's what it was all about.
Solidarity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.